touchdown, Alabama, let's get it.
The process, no one can stop this. Hottest show in the streets, I bet you can't top this. Rammer, jammer, yellow hammer, come see how we rock this. Alabama fans the best, there's no way you can top this. Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
The process.
How is it going, everyone? I am Justin Smith, the scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama magazine. Welcome into The Process, Crimson Tide Recruiting, where I break down the latest in Crimson Tide football recruiting news every Tuesday and Thursday evening on Touchdown Alabama's YouTube page. So if you're not subscribed, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, be sure to leave a like whether you are subscribed or not. We have a lot to get to today after missing Tuesday's show. I do want to preview the decision of Ty Simpson, which will happen on tomorrow. Of course, Simpson is one of the Tide's top quarterback targets in the 2022 recruiting class. We will preview his decision and look at where the Tide possibly stand heading into his decision on tomorrow. We will also be joined by the Tide's latest commit and four-star tight end, Elijah Brown, so you do not want to miss that as well. So we will hit all of that on today's episode of The Process. But before we dive into those things, we do have to hit you guys with some recruiting updates. So with that being said, let's get the process started. Let's get these recruiting updates rolling, with the Crimson Tide being included in a top schools list by a number of prospects in the 2022 recruiting class, including a pair of prospects from the state of Texas. When we look at Denver Harris, a five-star defensive back out of North Shore High School in Houston, Texas, he included the Tide in his top four, along with LSU, Texas, and Texas A&M. So it will be interesting to see if the Tide or the Tigers can pull Harris from the state of Texas, with the Longhorns and the Aggies continuing to push for him. Nick Saban really seemed to like Harris when he offered him as a ninth grader, so we will see how Harris' recruitment plays out with those schools now included in his top four. The Tide were also included in a top 8 released by five-star wide receiver Kevin Coleman out of Texas. So this is another wide receiver who the Crimson Tide are going after in the 2022 recruiting class. They currently have a long list of wide receivers who they are targeting in the 2022 class. So we will see how that position plays out for the Tide. I think it will be interesting to see which wide receiver the Tide takes here in this 2022 class, with it being a great amount of talent in this particular recruiting cycle. The Tide were also included in a top 11 released by Cyrus Moss, a 2022 four-star defensive end out of Bishop Gorman High School in Las Vegas, Nevada. I got an opportunity to catch up with Moss. He broke down why the Tide is included in his top 11. When we look at Moss, he fits the mold of what Alabama is looking for at outside linebacker and as an edge rusher. This is a kid who's a lengthy guy who is very physical off the edge. He is a relentless edge rusher. The Crimson Tide really seemed to like him. He broke down why the Crimson Tide are included in his top 11. You guys can check out that article at touchdownalabama.com, along with an article in an interview with Edric Weldon, a three-star safety out of Florida who currently stands at 6'5", who included the Tide in his top 10, although he's rated as a three-star recruit on most recruiting sites. This is a guy who has an opportunity to see his recruiting ranking continue to rise because he is a 6'5" defensive back prospect who holds offers from some of the top programs in the country, including the Alabama Crimson Tide and the Clemson Tigers. You guys can check out the latest between the Tide and Weldon over at touchdownalabama.com as well, along with an interview with Dan Shore, a four-star offensive lineman out of IMG Academy in Bradenton, Florida, who recently had a great conversation with Nick Saban. So be sure to check out that piece as well. The Tide recently extended a large amount of offers to prospects in the 2023 recruiting class, including some of the top running backs and wide receivers in that class. Brandon Ennis, who is projected to be the top wide receiver in the 2023 class, broke down what Alabama's offer meant to him over at touchdownalabama.com, along with Samuel Mpemba, who is expected to be one of the top edge rushers in the 2023 class. So you guys can check out all of that information over at Touchdown Alabama. But now I'm going to dive into Ty Simpson's commitment decision, which will happen on tomorrow. And we'll also slide right into our conversation with Elijah Brown, the Ty's latest tight end commit. Ty Simpson is set to announce his commitment on tomorrow. He is a 2022 quarterback out of Martin, Tennessee, and looks as if he would choose between the Clemson Tigers and the Alabama Crimson Tide, which makes this recruiting battle really intriguing because when you look at Alabama and Clemson, they match up in so many different ways. Both programs have shown that they are consistently going to be two of the top programs in the nation. Both have shown that they are consistently going to be in the college football playoff conversation, in the national championship conversation. And as of late, both have shown that they can develop NFL quarterbacks. When you look at Clemson, you have Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson. Take a look at Alabama. You have Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa, and most recently, Mac Jones. Both Jones and Lawrence are projected to be first-round draft picks in this upcoming NFL draft, which makes Simpson's decision really difficult. Also, when you look at both programs, I don't think either have an advantage over another when it comes to early playing time, because when you look at Alabama, the 3 scholarship quarterbacks that they currently have on their roster, they could be there once Ty Simpson enrolls at the University of Alabama, if you will, to choose the Crimson Tide. Also, when you look at the Clemson Tigers, they have DJ Uiagalelei, who is expected to be their starting quarterback this upcoming season. If Simpson was to choose Clemson, once an opportunity unfolds where Clemson is looking for another starting quarterback, you can bet that there's going to be one or possibly more highly ranked quarterbacks battling it out for Ty Simpson for that particular spot. So nothing is going to be given at any of these schools. You're going to have to fight for playing time. It does not look like it is just a clear path for early playing time when it comes to the quarterback position, either of these two schools. So that is something I'm pretty sure Simpson is weighing. Both schools are throwing the kitchen sink at this kid for obvious reasons. I think whoever gets him is getting an exciting player, a guy who knows how to extend plays. I think he's at his best when plays break down and he just has to do things on the fly and on the run. He's very elusive in the pocket, a kid who is definitely hard to get to with that elusiveness and that speed that he has in space when he's escaping around the pocket and looking to make big plays down the field. When you look at Alabama and Clemson, when you speak of them throwing the kitchen sink at Simpson, Trevor Lawrence, the projected number 1 overall draft pick in this upcoming NFL draft, has been in contact with Simpson at least one time, trying to get him to Clemson. Looking at Alabama, Nick Saban has been very involved because Saban always says he wants to add at least one quarterback in each recruiting cycle, and Ty Simpson would be a huge get for the Tide on tomorrow. I still feel it is a toss-up because of the reasons that I have laid out. Both schools present a great opportunity for the Martin, Tennessee product, and both schools will be lucky to have him throwing around the football for them in the future. And speaking of Simpson throwing the football around, a guy who he could possibly be throwing the football to in the future is Elijah Brown, the Tide's latest commit, who is a 4-star tight end out of Wayne High School in Hoover Heights, Ohio. We actually have him on a process right now. We are grateful to have the Ohio product join us here on the process. We want to talk with him about his commitment to Alabama. Of course, Elijah, we are so grateful to have you on the process today. Going back to your commitment decision, which happened earlier this month, what was it about Alabama that made you want to pull the trigger? What was it about the Crimson Tide that made you feel like it was the best place for you in your future?
Just the tradition that they have, and the winning. It's a very appealing. They do a great job. They did a great job recruiting me. after a great talk with Coach Saban and Saban and my family, I knew from that point on that this is where I want to call home, and this is going to be the best move for my career.
And speaking of Nick Saban, you said you had a great conversation with him before you committed. What are your thoughts about your future coach?
He's obviously, he's the GOAT. He's the GOAT in my eyes. He's a great guy. He kept it real with me. He told me that how they're going to use me, and he told me what I'm getting myself into when I come to Alabama. The hard work I'm going to have to put in, and yeah.
Your future tight ends coach is Jay Graham, who is one of the Tide's newest coaches. What are your thoughts about him after having a couple interaction with him being a new coach on the Tide's roster?
Right off the bat, we hit it off. He's a great guy. We had a great relationship right from the start. So yeah, I'm still getting to know him. We're both getting to know each other. So it's starting off great though. He's a great guy.
Again, the last thing before we let you go today, Elijah, Alabama plans to continue using their tight ends more and more in the passing game, but they also want to have hybrid tight ends who are willing to block like yourself. What is the Crimson Tide's plan for you, and what is that exactly from your point of view?
They said they're going to use me everywhere. They're going to use me online. They're going to flex me out. So I love that. When I heard that, I was really happy about that. They said they're going to really use my athleticism as much as they can, utilize me to my full ability. So
That will do it for this episode of The Process. Be sure to hit that subscribe button before you leave. Also, be sure to leave that like. Then head over to touchdowналabama.com. Pick up your subscription today. With that subscription, you will be able to read all of our subscriber-only articles. Get your hands on our yearly print magazine issue. Also get an opportunity to read our in-depth scouting reports on each Tide commit in each recruiting class. Then head to the Google Play Store if you have an Android device to download the Touchdown Alabama app, so breaking news notifications can be sent to your mobile device. If you have an Apple device, be sure to go to the Apple App Store. As always, I am Justin Smith, the scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama magazine.
Process.